Prior to getting started on your Clearview defroster install, it's a good idea to plan where you'll source your power. Installing the wiring may require you to run wires under the chassis of the vehicle or through various parts of the vehicle, like under floorboards, to reach your power options. Determining how you're going to run your wires and where you want your switch to be placed will make for a more seamless and stress-free installation. Thoroughly clean the window with the Gap 1 cleaner before applying anything to the window. Heat is your friend, so install on a warm day, preferably above 75 degrees, or make sure you have a heat gun or hairdryer handy to warm the glass. Heat is also very useful to help release the paper backing from the copper grids. Use a grease pen on the outside of the window to mark the position of the grid paper for easier installation. Make sure to read the instructions and diagrams carefully before this step. The positions of the bus bars are critical to make sure the power flows correctly through the grid lines. Make sure you leave lots of extra length on the copper grids so that it's easier to wrap them over the top of the bus bars. It even helps to tape those ends out of the way during the bus bar install. Warming up the black plastic cap will help to securely snap it in place. Double check to make sure the copper grid lines are wrapped around and secured to all the appropriate connection points. Then carefully trim the leftover grids after making sure all the connections are good. Find a safe but hidden spot to connect the ThermaSync control box. Make sure to carefully read the instructions beforehand and note that it's easier to connect the wires of the ThermaSync controller prior to attaching it to its permanent home. The ThermaSync isn't an overly complicated system, and all the connectors are color-coded for your convenience. Once you have decided where you want the ThermaSync box and switch, go ahead and install them both. This is a critical step. Make sure to use the fuse, either 20A or 25A, that was provided with your installation kit. And if you're operating other things on the same line, make sure the fuse can handle the total amps of all components on the circuit and that you've used the appropriate thickness of wire. In our demo, we're connecting directly to the battery per the customer's request. However, as long as you find an equivalent gauge power wire source, you can connect virtually anywhere on the vehicle. This is where pre-planning will pay off. Run the wire between the controller and defroster through the chosen path. Make sure to secure all loose wires. If you have extra wire, don't trim it until the last connection step. Grounding is important to a successful install, so make sure your ground wires are attached correctly and to the proper ground. Once everything is in place, connect the defroster and turn on the vehicle. Hit the switch to turn on the defroster. If it's not heating up after 10 minutes, check the various connections, starting with the fuse, and make sure it isn't blown. Work your way from the control unit back to the defroster, checking all of the connections. If all connections are working, fiddle around with the bus bar covers and make sure they're snugged down to make a solid connection. A voltmeter will be handy for troubleshooting. If all that doesn't work, call us at 303-232-8788. Happy defrosting!